And for us, it is this wisdom that exists that is not being noticed. Our goal is to bring it to the forefront for people to leverage slash utilize and give us who want to share wisdom also purpose, meaning, relevance as we do it. So in a nutshell, we are, yes, a work related platform where we are trying to help organizations tap into this talent pool. So in fact, we as the Wisdom Circle team look at our job as changing the narrative with organizations to say, look, please leverage this group. As opposed to, it's not about a job portal per se, right? It's basically saying, look, there is so much to give. So we work with all kinds of organizations, non-profits, educational institutes, but we are a for-profit company. We get paid by organizations to find what we call seasoned professionals or experts. Initially, we had termed our organization, the phrase we used was retiring retirement. And then we kind of realized that it's not really about retiring retirement, because the fact that you want to continue doesn't mean that you are retiring. So in the interest of making this global, we call it seasoned professionals. So that's who we are. We started our operation, so we're a Delaware company. We started with our team in India, but now we actually have presence in London, in Amsterdam, in Paris, in Johannesburg, in Singapore, in Dubai, and more recently in China and Japan as well. Our aspiration is world domination, but from not the I'm trying to think of which other reference, not in a Google kind of way, but in a much more non-AI, real people doing real things kind of way. So that's what we do. What else can I? Okay. So maybe one thing I can share, which may be just relevant for the group, is what have we learned so far? And maybe that's sort of a very interesting discussion that we can build on. And Bhavna, if that's okay, maybe that's what I will start with. And I know you and I have spoken about it, and at least give sort of my perspective, or rather our Wisdom Circle perspective, on what we are seeing around the world and what is consistent across the world. Would that, maybe we start with that, Bhavna? Okay. So on the tens of thousands of conversations we at Wisdom Circle have had around the world, we were trying to figure out what makes happy 65-year-old. And I'm just using 65 as a reference point. I mean, there are people in their 50s, there are people all the way in their 80s, and the whole range in between. But essentially, we were talking to people and trying to figure out what makes people happy as we age, and related to work. So in the questions that we asked, I think, so here's what we learned, and this is kind of a framework that we share with people. So the first thing we realized is that the bedrock of a happy existential longer life is a financial security, right? Again, no rocket science there, but if you have financial security, you can then try a lot of other things. So, and if you are struggling with financial security, then that should be your focus. So one element was, okay, financial security. Believe it or not, there is another fundamental thing that we found, which is, I would say it's not causation, but it is a correlation, is we found that if you have daughters, nieces, daughter-in-laws, whoever around you, you are much happier going older than if you only have your sons or boys around you. And I think, and for us, again, we don't talk about it as much, but it kind of tells you that, look, there is something about daughters, granddaughters, that is just a lot more joyous as we get older. But anyway, so coming back to the work framework, we realized, and I'm going to sort of explain it in a 7-day framework, if that helps. So what we realize in a 7 day framework is, and the answer is like, how do you split your 7 day work week and as related to happy 65-year-olds, right? So what, and again, this is a generalization, but this is where the median ended up. It was the first 2 days of your week should be spent doing something that builds on what you really know. Okay, so if you're an accounting professional, a marketing professional, a supply chain professional, I mean, whatever it is, or an industry expert, doing something for 2 days a week that is in your field for which someone pays you. So and that's important, because in a way what it's saying is that money that you get for that 2 days a week of work doesn't dip into your savings as you get older. And so in a way that, that thesis of 2 days of working is what people were finding to be manageable and were happy doing. The third day of the week, and this is again related to science, is getting up in front of a classroom of children and teaching. So no, I'm not saying mentorship or coaching, which can come in your first 2 days, but your third day is getting up in front of young people who can learn from you. Because in a lot of conversations we've had with people like yourselves, is that, look, I know so much, or I've learned something, but I don't know who to share it with. Of course, me and my mother keep having this discussion that she keeps repeating everything she's, and she says it sometimes twice a day to me, the same thing. And I patiently listen. But so, we are all longing for someone who listens to us. And that's eventually where we're going to get to at 85, 90. But in this interim, 60, 65, 70, getting up. And so find yourself a teaching day, I think is the point. That's the third day. The fourth day is a day of giving, which is non-profit, social impact, socially conscious organized. So going and working with an organization that allows you to just give, right? And again, we found people doing that a lot more happier. So that's sort of your 4 days. The fifth day was a day for yourself. It was saying, look, I want to learn something. I want to read a book. I want to learn something I just don't know. But again, linked to, I want to stay relevant while also continuing to be curious about things around the world. So that's your 5 day. I think of this as your 5 day work week. And the last 2 days are travel, golf, spending time with family, kids, grandkids, parents, whatever that will be. So this is that ideal 7 day work week of happy people who are financially secure and hopefully have a daughter, right? Now, for all the other stuff, you have to tweak it to get there, right? If you don't have a daughter, I'm sorry, I don't have a daughter either. I have 2 sons, and it's, I don't say it's unfortunate, but I'm not as privileged as people who have daughters. So you have to just work harder. And most of us, will start maybe with 4 days or 5 days and reduce it to 2 days of work. Some of us may get more joy in teaching only or giving only. But this combination is what I think, as we aspire for in this world of where everyone in fact, most of us, touch wood, will live longer than we expect to live, is something that we have to work towards. So Bhavna, I'll pause here and just, feel free to ask me of what else I should be sharing. But I just thought this could be something. And by the way, this is across the world, and you may differ. I know the US, and by the way, for example, the US thinks very differently from Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia. But it is, thank you, Rajesh, for sharing. And again, this just keeps coming, right? I think and by the way, it keeps evolving. So for example, I was sharing this with a friend, and she told me that, look, for her, doing something with her hand is very important. And I said, okay, now where would it fit? So I think all of us, so for me, that doing something with your hand fits in your 5th, 6th, 7th day, if you will. And you can choose where it fits. But literally, if you take your year and you sort of divide it by this 1/7 of this or 2/7 of that, is where we would like to get to. Anyway, this is Bhavna, over to you.
Thank you, Neeraj. I'd open our up to all of you to like share your questions, thoughts, topics that you want to hear over the next few minutes. I think one topic, Neeraj, that has come up on the chat, but also overall, like taking your framework and putting it into like reality, right? In terms of transition, how do you really plan transition? And the question here is around fractional leadership, right? If you want to do that 2 days a week, in India, it's still not as mature, the concept. And in a lot of Asia, it's not yet as
Yeah.
mature, right? So how do one, I think, what is Wisdom Circle doing? I'm going to plant that question because I know you're doing a lot of work there. But second thing is, as individuals, how do we plan? How do we transition? How do we really show up as people that can be potential from a fractional, short-term, interim opportunity?
I wish there was a right answer to that, Bhavna. I think the first one is, I think the way I would say it is at least what we've observed, and a lot of what I'm talking about is what we've observed from people around the world, like yourselves, right? And you all therefore will have the answer anyways, but you have to start on this journey before you get into you get off the treadmill of work. Right? So if you don't, so therefore, for example, if you decide that, look, I'm going to retire at 60 or 65 or whatever that age will be, or even 55 for that matter, you have to start thinking and planning for it at least 3 to 4 years in advance. And again, some of you have been through this journey, so you will have a better answer than I have. A very simple example, right? So when we've spoken to people, shifting mindset from doing to mentoring is a very difficult shift, because a lot of us are so used to doing stuff. We want to take charge. We want to even tell people what to do. Versus mentorship is not about telling; it's about sharing, right? And coaching is a whole different ballgame. So I think this mental shift of how you want to operate has to change. And by the way, you may decide to say, "Look, I don't want to shift to becoming a mentor. I still want to continue doing," because the bottom line is you have to get your brain to work. In fact, one of the reasons I tell people as to why we do what we do, and this is Bhavna to your point on Wisdom Circle, is we believe that if you meaningfully engage your mind, you can delay the onset of cognitive decline substantially. So there are two things. It's the onset of cognitive decline and the rate of cognitive decline. Again, we're bringing in the science because a lot of this, is happening in the fields already, and some of you may be reading about it. But making sure that you are not sitting idle and watching television. And I'll give you, so I've been talking to, the Netflix, the Amazon Primes, and all of that, just to try and figure out what they're doing. And what we are realizing is, I think Yvonne, do you want to just mute yourself, if you don't mind? So what we are realizing, even with the likes of Netflix and Amazon Prime and the like, is they're all creating content for people to sit at home because they have nothing else to do, and it's scary, right? They are going to work, and if that's where we end up, like if we become their target group and they only look at us, I think it's a problem. But coming back, Bhavna, sorry, I kind of distracted myself from the question you asked. But ask the question again. Again, this is an old age problem for all of us, right? We talk about what we want to talk about as opposed to the question that is asked.
I think helpful. I think you said you need to plan early if you're planning to transition. But I think there is another question which is also leading to that around what kind of roles can you do in that 2 days of paid work, right? Is there any like learnings, any
Yeah.
thoughts? How do you really plan what you can give in those
You know,
2 days?
it's a good question. It varies from market to market. See, typically, again, if you look at if you want to work in social impact, or if you want to work in education, or even the 2 days, the one thing that we are realizing is whatever area of depth you have is what needs to be honed. If you approach the world as I'm a generalist, I know everything, I can manage teams, I'm good at strategy, I can, then you will actually have very few takers. So I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine. I called him. He was retiring from a white goods company, And I asked him, I said, look, we'll call him James. I like the word James. So, and if there's James on this thing, I think it's not you. But this is James. So, and James says, um, I'm a good manager, I'm a good people leader, so I stopped him. I said, James, what do you really know? Right? I said, all this is fine. I mean, half the world believes they're good managers. And in certain parts of the world, everybody believes they're a good manager. I said, that's fine, but what do you really know? And then he delved deeper into his own experience and he says, Neeraj, I am very good at understanding distribution of white goods across the world. So I understand supply chain, I understand how distributors think, I understand how to price products in different markets. And I said, now look, that's the positioning change. So one of the things as you move towards fractionalism, you have to be very clear on what do you really know and what value you add to the organization that you're talking about or talking to. And that's where sometimes, because we always look at the last thing we have done in our jobs and use that as a positioning of this is what I know. For example, you could be, look, I worked in 4 different industries and I know how they are different. Now that is something young people just don't have, right? Or I have seen different geographies and cultures and I know how to handle X or handle Y. So literally sometimes you have to just go relook at your own learnings from your work life and articulate it in a way that AI cannot articulate. So I think that's one piece of it. But I think the bigger one is, like I said, financial stability, knowing what you want. Look, if you want to work full time, then you just position yourself different. So again, there's no cookie cutter answer, but you have to be in your own mind, you have to be centered around what is it you're trying to solve for. So the happier people we found who actually find the roles, etc., are people who say, look, this is what I will do, this is not what I will do. And I think I'm also, Bhavna, going to link this a little to some of the questions that are coming on what does Wisdom Circle do and what kind of job. So we tell organizations that we don't hire full-time people, right? We don't hire career folks. And let me define what that means. Anyone who's looking for a job where they can get promoted, you should not come to Wisdom Circle. We are not in the career job finding company. We are trying to match people who have wisdom, skills, intelligence, and domain expertise to organizations that can benefit from them. Now, you may end up building a career there, and a lot of times, to your point on fractional, fractional is a word that's used a lot in the West, but part-time, short duration, expertise requirements, consultants for a specific project. I mean, those are the kind of synonyms that get used around for the kind of roles that we help organizations with. We are trying to do a few other things which we've not really built on. So, for example, one of the things we would love to do is how can we, help educational institutes tap into the wisdom of people who live their lives practicing what the educational institutes are trying to teach. Now, it's a big ask, but I think there's a huge gap between what academia teaches and what we really learn from industry, and we're trying to bridge those worlds. Which means, can we create 1 million teachers out of people who stepped away from full-time careers? Now, those are things we're going to try. We still call ourselves a startup. We've only been at it for 4 years. But our goal is to try and impact, if not 100 million people, at least 10 million, 20 million people to start with. Back to you, Bhavna.
There's a question on the chat, Neeraj, around difference between men and women, right? Is there any gender difference you're seeing? And I think the question's very interesting around like women being more interested in sewing, crafts, seeing value in doing that and finding joy. But at the same time, is there difference in positioning? What has Wisdom Circle learned?
It's a good question, Bhavna. I think so answer is there is a difference. I can't speak for the sewing craft and the hobby side of things, but let me talk about it from a work perspective. And I'll tell you what the one major difference we have seen, and I have Swati here with me, who's our colleague. Swati likes to tell her age, so she's 62. Swati,
going to be 65 in a month.
I'm just trying to lower it by a bit. But as you know, Swati is very confident, 65-year-old. And Swati, you can correct me, and she works with our team. She's an architect, does multiple things, and teaches. So she practices a lot of what we're talking about. And Swati, I'm going to make a stab at it, and please feel free to add in and build on it. We have seen that men, so if there's a role that is posted, and then if, on a scale of 1 to 10 about their own fit for the role, if men fit more than 5 out of 10, they're confident they can do the role. If women are applying for a role, even if they are 8 on 10, they feel they're not fully fit for the role. It's a very interesting dynamic. I think and maybe it's the way and social upbringing and how it works, but by the way, this happens in most countries. It's not just a specific regional issue. Now, what does that mean? I think, so that's one difference, which means women have to be nudged to give them a lot more confidence to apply for roles. And the second one is that, women actually have less ego as they in the post-career world, because they're so used to multitasking as they've grown up, much more than the men have, and therefore they can fit in better into a different culture and ease into those roles much easier than the men can. So these are the two specific differences. Swati, over to you. Anything that you would like to add, given that in a way, am talking about you?
If I look at it from a personal perspective and use that brush, one thing is that women are a lot more nurturing, which is a biological gender thing. And like you said, we may not have such as inflated egos as men do, and this is not a bias. I mean, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, but mostly I think, Neeraj, women of the baby boomer generation grew up having to prove themselves a lot more than their male siblings and counterparts. And so I think when we step out of our careers and go into the second phase of our lives, we also are able to adapt and give back better and mentor better and take on all these roles because of all these skills and genetic things which are there in our DNA. I think that's what works for us.
Thank you for sharing, Swati.
Thank you, Swati. Back to you, Bhavna.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, both of you. The other question is around becoming generalists, right? And how do you evolve? What kind of expertise do you continue building? And how do you stay relevant?
Again, there's no right answer, but I think the one of the learnings we have had is domain expertise eats generalists for breakfast. I mean, that's whole. And I say this because in this post world, now I think there is a lot of wisdom in being a generalist, but from an application to work perspective, and that's specifically what I'm talking about. And even if you look at the AI world right now, as an example, right? Today in the AI world, there is a lot more value of people who are deep experts in any function in an industry, or have certain skills that can help train AI models. And you don't have to be a tech person to do it. That's one piece from a work perspective of application of that generalist roles in the first 2 days, or even the third day for that matter. But if you, for example, if you become a teacher at a business school, and there also, unless you've been a CEO, CXO, where business schools will benefit from your ability to connect the dots, etc. Other than that, it's very, very difficult. If in the non-profit world is absolutely fine, right? Non-profit world actually, in fact, is the most wider brush of handling all kinds of people. because the giving side is a lot stronger than the functional domain side. But there also, I think, the request that we get from the nonprofits is actually domain experts. Can you help us find a finance person? Can you help us find a supply chain person? Volunteer roles, of course, can be anyone doing anything, but anything that pays, people typically are looking for some expertise.
Thank you. I think there are two questions specifically, and maybe it's timely for us to talk about it now on how can Wisdom Circle help, right? Whether it is with jobs, volunteering opportunities, and what is Wisdom Circle's role in this sort of support. Neeraj, I'd love for you to share, but Rajiv, I'd love for you to come off mute and also share
Let's do
your
that.
journey.
Yeah.
Rajiv, first, maybe you, and then we can go.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what my journey with Wisdom Circle has been. So this was early years, I think more than 3 years, where Wisdom Circle, I heard about Wisdom Circle through one of my friends who said, what the Wisdom Circle wants to popularize um, their app, their website, and they look for people to popularize that. And being into corporate training, I had this huge database of people I have trained. I've trained more than 27,000 people. And I thought, sure. So I reached out to Wisdom Circle, and somebody there said, sure, get on board, and if you can popularize. So send me a link, which I sent to all my contacts. I found the concept to be fantastic. I mean, amazing. And I still do. There's only one thing which I think I shared with Bhavna earlier, is that I stopped getting calls from these Sarathis. And second was, even the calls that I used to get was more to do was as if I have nothing to do. How are you feeling today? Is it okay? Can you want to chat with somebody? No, I don't want to do that. I want to have a nice conversation about life or what's happening and keeping me alive, right? Like what Neeraj said so beautifully about spending your week. I think I've been doing that since I was 40. So my passion is stray dogs, stray animals. So I look out for stray dogs and cook food for them and cows and what have you. I do a lot of work by making shoes for this organization called Samaritan's Feet in the US, where we make shoes in India and send it to poor people all over the world. And yeah, that's how I do spend my day. But Wisdom Circle came as such a breath of fresh air that somebody is actually valuing experience, right? Sure, roles may match, may not match. You may not get the break that you are wanting to have. That's fine. But the sheer effort that is behind that, I think that's truly appreciated. That was my experience with Circle.
No,
Thanks, Bob.
thank you. If you don't mind, Case, are you there? Yeah. So Case is our colleague in France.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah. Hey.
So Case, what has, if you, from a Europe lens perspective, anything you would like to add on what Wisdom Circle is doing? And I know, Basav, you're also there. These are our colleagues in Europe. One is in London, Case is based in France. But Case, what are you observing about what is happening in Europe with our segment that we are trying to help, and what is Wisdom Circle trying to do from your perspective?
Just if I may, can you hear me clearly? Yeah, I'm by the way,
We can.
I'm in the INSEAD now, just because I like to pop in there and just feel the vibe of going to the library.
In Fontainebleau.
People, yeah, in Fontainebleau, right? Yeah. So just to making the point that it's very important to stay, aligned close to latest academic thinking and young people also, right? So just my experience with it. I used to work at Egon Zonder until recently, so I spoke to a lot of executives, seeing whether they were interested in going through their career. And now at Wisdom Circle, I speak to a lot of, let's say, former or currently seasoned executives, and some of them are on the call, Barry, John, etc. My finding is that, oh my God, these seasoned executives are very cool people, right? I think I love them really, because they are freer to operate, not in the constraints, pressure of a company, and I think they're just great people. And I think really there is a point of hiring the seasoned executives into companies. It will be very beneficial for companies. That was a side comment. We are a startup. We are slowly building up a good database of relevant people. Together with Basaf, who's on the call, and please, Basaf, say a few things, and with David and Liapa in Africa. And I think it's going well, right? I hope that all the friends that are on the call can tell their friends and former or current colleagues to also write it. Yeah, but I think we're going to have an impact. Really, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, Basaf.
I think Passive is not able to unmute and share case. So maybe back to Neeraj, and then we can have anybody else from Wisdom Circle share.
Yep. So I think so. We have, Bhavna, I think nothing more to add except to say that look, I know you if you wanted to specifically talk about what Wisdom Circle does, but look, I think one, we would love for all of you who want to continue doing meaningful work as you get older. If you're not on our platform, please come sign up. If you have friends of yours who you feel could benefit from what we do, please ask them to sign up. We also, so here is how we work. We do not, our revenue, and this is important for everyone to know, comes from organizations that hire people from our platform. We do not charge anybody to come sign up on our platform. We typically don't even have an age criteria, because we tell, even if younger people want to come and sign up, we tell them, look, you're going to get older, so you might as well start experiencing how we think. So come at any age. We do tell people that, look, we are a post-50 platform, which is, 50 is the second half of your life. It's how we position ourselves. But, in different countries, how we talk about age, etc., is regulated. In some countries, we are more open. In some countries, we are not. This is given that we're trying to build a global platform. So we tell everybody, look, there's no restriction. Come sign up, come attend whatever we are doing, come listen, come look at recordings. So our goal is to help foster community and continue creating more and more opportunities for people to come sign up. So that's one. I think over to you, Bhavna. I know you have a much more structured way of talking about what we want to. Yeah.
Yes. So I just wanted to take 2 minutes, I think, because the question has been, what does Wisdom Circle do and how can we help? So one is, as we've already discussed, we're a global platform, and that makes us unique in a way where we are helping. Sorry, I think somebody needs to mute. Give me 1 second. Okay, so coming back. So we're a global talent marketplace, as we call ourselves. And what we are doing is we're in the business of matchmaking wisdom with organizations that need wisdom, that will benefit from wisdom and have the need for wisdom, right? So actively, the Wisdom Circle team is talking to organizations across the globe, trying to figure out where the opportunities lie, where can we help match wisdom to their organizational needs. We, of course, place with seasoned professionals across the globe. So a lot of cross-border expertise. Some of you asked around, I'm a generalist, right? And where can I add? How can I keep updated? There's a lot of wisdom about knowing your own country, knowing your own industry, knowing your own vertical that you have worked in. And we're working with governments across the world. We're working with different organizations across the world and really identifying that sort of need and helping match. And the second thing is, I think our value system is around making sure that it is purpose-driven roles and opportunities that really value your wisdom. We do work across domains, across different kind of opportunities, ranging from advisor, fractional, interim, volunteering opportunities. There's a comment on the chat around volunteering, and there are a lot of impact organizations across the globe that we are associated with. Right? And of course, AI and tech is in the forefront of all of this. We're building on technology to make all of this super easy for you and for organizations, and to really help match both the wisdom and the opportunity. So call to action for all of you. If you're not part of the Wisdom Circle community, sign up on the community. You'd be asked to create a profile. It shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. Create your profile, share all your wisdom with us, right? Tell us what you're good at, and then we will take the rest of the work to like really match you to opportunities, match you to even value added like opportunities where say there is like trainings that are helpful, and tell us what is helpful, tell us how we can be more helpful in this journey. And also the other call to action is definitely share with your peers, share with friends. We're on to really building a large global community. And it's very important to make sure that we have enough wisdom in our community as we go and like meet organizations, share, and really like live to what Neeraj was saying around world dominance, right? In terms of making wisdom accessible to all the organizations across the globe. So there's a quick sign up link here. You can just go to wisdomcircle.com and create your profile. The other thing is if you know any organizations that are hiring, or if you're part of any volunteering associations, nonprofits, or any sort of organizations, talk to them about Wisdom Circle. And we're here, all of us here, to build this community together. That's pretty much it. That was like my 5-minute spiel. I will bring it back to all of you. Any other questions, thoughts? What do you want to cover today?
While people are putting that out, I think the only thing I would say is, look, we're trying really hard. We are not perfect. I think we are also realizing that there are organizations around the world that are also trying this. There's almost nobody trying to do this at a global level, because our view is that wisdom and expertise can be shared in today's world, no matter where you are and across borders, especially given Teams and Zoom and everything else. So therefore, just pardon us if we don't get it right, but I think we can just tell you that we are trying really hard. So if you even come across organizations that can benefit from leveraging the wisdom of the folks on our platform, let us know. We will be happy to follow up and get that translated for roles on our platform. But at the same time, I think, like I said, if you do something wrong, please give us feedback. We will try and do our best. I know Neeraj, you've been asking questions to me. I think you've been messaging me saying you want to host something on our platform. Look, we actually don't host sessions on our platform for people who are trying to promote their services yet. We don't have a model for it yet. We're trying to work on it, but please bear with us. I think I know there's a lot of varied interest we get on how we should leverage our platform. What we are trying to do is again build the foundations of what we are doing, and hopefully we'll be able to cater to all the kinds of requests that come our way. Bhavna, any other questions that are on that we need to answer?
I think we've answered most questions. Yes, but we can hang out here, and if there's anything else, anybody else wants to share. I know a lot of people from the Wisdom Circle community are here, so feel free to come off mute and share what you'd like to hear from us. I think one of the other things is we're really evolving and thinking about how we can add more value and bring more things to all of you. So if there's any asks, this is also a good focus.
Perfect. And Bhavna's put her email on the chat. So if there's anything specific, feel free to message. And look, if there's anything in your particular country as well that you would want us to participate in, be a part of, to help grow the community, please let us know. Like I said, we have 120,000 people on our platform. We are growing faster than we realized, and which also is telling us that look, there's a huge need for us to create opportunities for people to stay engaged. Because again, in this world of AI, it just gets very difficult because everyone is talking about how we'll become not as relevant, and our view is very different. Our view is that look, humanity always figures out solutions, and just the amount of knowledge and skills and experience and life experiences that sit with people as we age is something that cannot be ignored by government, by organizations. And I think the other thing we always tell people is, look, the world is solving for us to live longer. I mean, across the board, everyone is, trying to figure out medication. Our question is, what are we going to do if we live longer? If all of us on this call live to 100 or 110, 120,
Yep.
it's a challenge. It's like, what are we going to do? And we need to solve for it sooner than later. And the very fact that all of you are attending this means you are the pioneers who are actually really thinking about this. 9 out of 10 people are not even thinking about it. Right? So kudos to all of you that you at least, taken the first step of joining. Um, and I think, um, we'll continue trying our best. Bhavna, any other questions? I think again, the Wisdom Circle folks will continue to stay on. If you need to drop off, please feel free to drop off.
I think one question or theme is what is Wisdom Circle doing to bring organizations, roles, mandates, opportunities for all of us, right? Of course, needed share, but case anybody else on the Wisdom Circle team here, I think there's a lot of effort that we are putting into doing that. So I'd love for everybody to share a little bit more about what are we doing to create these sorts of opportunities.
Oh, and I think maybe I'll hand it over to Preeti. If Preeti is on the call, I think Preeti sits in Dubai. For example, she's working a lot with the government there, trying to figure out how we can leverage this talent pool. Preeti, are you there? Do you want to just talk a little bit about what you're doing in Dubai? Um, I'm not sure if Liapa is here from Johannesburg. Um,
Hello, can you hear me?
we can hear you, Preeti.
Yeah, hi. So I can talk a little bit about the DET, the Dubai Economic and Tourism Department, which we've partnered with. And they are launching a campaign called Retire in Dubai. So Dubai, as everyone knows, is kind of the hotbed of activity, economic and otherwise at the moment. And the Middle East is as well. And so they are sort of enticing people to come into Dubai and retire here for the lifestyle, for the healthcare facilities, for financial reasons as well. So we've partnered with them to be one of the partners to help these people retire in Dubai. So that's one of the things we're working on actively at the moment. There is a launch event that will be at the end of January. So we're expecting a lot more visibility for this particular mission within Dubai and the Middle East. So we're very excited about that.
And if I just build on what Preeti is saying, the idea that people will come and settle and on a retirement visa to a country like Dubai, the question we've been working with the government on is how can we leverage the wisdom of these retirees who come settle there for the benefit of the region, right? So are there mentorship roles that can get created where they can contribute while also settling down? So I think our goal in every conversation that we have is how can we create more opportunities that don't exist today? Because if you just go down the traditional route saying, oh, you know what, organizations hire these people. Yes, that's one way, but organizations are stubborn people. Right? They have their structures, and it's not easy to change them. Creating new roles is sometimes easier than getting current organizations to change their organization structures to incorporate, fractional, part-time, short duration folks who come in with expertise. So that's one part. Bhavna, do you want to talk about, for example, in Singapore, as an example, the kind of things you've been working on?
Yeah, I think this is what keeps the Wisdom Circle team awake at night, if I may say, right? I think we are all looking at at opportunities of really creating demand and a few learnings from Singapore in itself, or even Southeast Asia as a whole, right? And Ramana is on the call, and Ramana and I have been talking about how can we get construction specialists working with him, right? So, but I think there are a few examples. For example, the startup community. There is a huge startup community, a lot of people investing a lot of money in through accelerators, through really building tech for startups, especially with AI. There is a huge need for advisors, right? One of the things that Wisdom Circle is thinking about is how can we really position ourselves to startups and say, if you ever need a domain expert, a country expert, a vertical expert, you can come to us. That is a huge part of it. So I think my ask from all of you is, I'm sure you know a startup founder, tell them about Wisdom Circle, send them my email ID. We're happy to chat about how we can support them. Second thing is nonprofit organizations. We hear this from all of you all the time, that driving impact and giving back is really important. Globally, we are talking to impact organizations. And for example, Hatch in Singapore, has come back and said, can you give us like 15 trainers for next year? Where we will have them talk about their wisdom. So there are a lot of initiatives like that we're trying to do at scale. And the third thing is, of course, working with consultancies, with government organizations to say, hey, if you're ever expanding globally, if you need cross-border experts, we have them. But I'll tell you, here's what we need. Here's the support that we need from all of you to make this happen, right? One is we need more people signed up on our platform, right? And we're just about getting started. We have 100,000 people on our platform already, right? Experts. How do we get more of those so that when there is a need, we have that success story out, right? So we're trying to get as many success stories out about how wisdom is solving problems for organizations around the globe. The second thing is, if you know an organization or if you're associated with an organization, how can you think about ways in which we can have or support? Right? Because fractional roles, part-time, short-term, a lot of organizations don't know how to integrate into their HR systems, into their day-to-day. Right? So one other thing that we're actively solving, not only as the Wisdom Circle community, but also with a lot of players in the market, like fractional first, portfolio careers, to say, can we come together and train organizations of when you want to hire someone that is not full-time, what do you do? Right. So we're trying to think about the contracting, we're trying to think about payments, we're trying to think about how can we standardize all of that. And I'm sure all of us have that sort of wisdom, right? So definitely share with us how we can support you. And the last thing I'd say is a lot of companies out there are on this journey of helping people reskill and upskill, right? And what we want to do is do it in a really meaningful way, to think about what is top of mind for this sort of community, and how can we bring organizations. And Neeraj spoke about this in Singapore, saying, maybe there is a need for us to become entrepreneurs, right? To think about wisdom as a service. And we're bringing an organization next year, which is going to help this community upskill from an entrepreneurship standpoint. Not like we need upskilling, but really thinking about frameworks, support systems, right? That can help you become your own service or become your own solopreneur. That's a little bit about everything that Wisdom Circle is doing. Honestly, there's a lot that Wisdom Circle is doing in this front. And we'd love for all of you to be a part of this. Okay. There is a question around, is Wisdom Circle planning to categorize the community in some way? Anybody wants to answer that question? Swati, can I put you on the spot? Or did we lose Swati?
No, Bhavna, what was the question again?
I guess the question is around, is Wisdom Circle planning to categorize the community in some way?
Maybe I'll take a stab at it, and Swati, you can add.
Sure.
It's a very good question on this homogeneity and heterogeneity, right? We actually think categorizing will not do justice to this community. The biggest categorization, if anything else, is people who want to continue being meaningfully engaged to keep themselves active, is the community. Like every single person who's coming and joining the community is somebody who wants to continue being mentally active. And so that's the homogenization on it. The heterogeneity is a lot around people who want to work across borders, who know something, who want to share it with younger people, who just are curious about the world. So in fact, if you are not already a member within our Wisdom Circle, after you join, you can actually pick the community as well. So we have community groups, and Swati can tell us about it. In fact, Swati actually hosts, we host something called Curiosity Talks. We get people so we curate specific topics that are of interest to our community. And just so that all of you know, we don't get paid for any of this. We don't do, we're not trying to sell anything. We're just trying to bring, like I said, we make our money from organizations who hire people. But what we try and do is try and curate events and things that are beneficial to our community. And through that, automatically, the homogeneity actually comes. Like the other day, we hosted a session around AI, right? How do you learn, leverage? And, people just got attracted and sort of created a group around it. And so I'll pause there. Swati, anything to add on what we are doing on community?
So also just to talk about the categorization, Neeraj and Bhavna, I think it has to do a lot with the word purpose. Everybody who is in this stage of life is looking for that aspect of purpose in their lives. And people find purpose in different ways. So I think that's where the categories come in. Some might find purpose in just giving back, getting into the social development sector, in mentoring, volunteering, etc. Some may find it by actually getting into relevant working roles. And some may find it just to keep themselves active and busy. So I think that probably will be the categories. But what Neeraj said was absolutely right, that once we are past whatever that 55, everybody wants to remain relevant, wants to remain connected and be part of a community, because the work family is what you lose when you step out of the workplace. And that's where community comes in. Wisdom Circle has this community where you can meet like-minded folks. You can have your subgroups, you can talk about topics, you can have sessions and meetings and basically connect. And what we do is we also host sessions through Engage and through Curiosity Talks, where we use the wisdom of the people on our platform. They are the ones who come and they are the ones that talk. And people who are interested in getting knowledge, information, or just having a sense of community come and join these sessions. So we have, I think, combined with Engage and Curiosity Talks, we may have already done maybe 70 or 80 of them. And these meetings, yes, these are virtual. And we do it, once or twice a month. And people find it very either useful or interesting. And it's a way of staying in touch. So that's what we do for the community.
And Swati, I think there is a good point that I think was brought up earlier as well, of doing, especially if you can do it by city/country, city rather, across the world, where we just bring people together for them to just understand, and therefore maybe that's the homogeneity and the heterogeneity that we can kind of create.
Sure.
But it's a very good point. I think we will try and figure out the face-to-face as well. The challenge, Rajesh, I think for us on the face-to-face is just about resources, if you ask us. Because, at the end, we are, like I said, a startup that is still trying to build and figure out a lot of things. But just to summarize where we are trying to be the place where any of us can come to find meaningful work as we get older. That's it. That's all we're trying to do. And for this segment, we have two words that we are trying to do, which is we are solving for relevance and we are solving for respect. And for organizations, we are solving for wisdom on tap. We are saying, look, you can find experts, you can find relevant people in any area, anywhere in the world. So therefore helping create this marketplace concept. Not everybody, and this is the more practical part, not everybody is going to find what they want, but at least we are trying. And I think we're going to try other ways to increase, as Bhavna was saying, more and more opportunities that we can bring to the world. And then therefore, at least try and do whatever best we can. But at the same time, I think we're very optimistic, right? We're optimistic that, in the world of AI or otherwise, there is enough and more to be done with the wisdom of, elders and as we age. Yeah.
Amazing. What a wonderful note to end. Thank you, folks. I think some of you are joining and spending your dinner time with us. Some of you are spending your commute time some afternoon. So we have folks from across the world. Thank you for being such an engaging audience. We'll follow up with the Wisdom Circle sign up link. But if you have any ideas, thoughts, if you want to chat, we're here and we'd love to. You have my email ID, you have all of our contacts. So definitely chat, and thank you for spending the last hour with us.
Thank you, everyone.
folks.
Thank you for
Thank
joining.
Thank you.
Very
Bye.
much.